from today onwards, I'll be taking your chemistry. Okay. So in last class, your previous teacher had discussed about chemical kinetics, and he had given you expression for the first order reaction. Okay. So today, I'm going to give you, or we'll discuss about the half-life of first order reaction. Got it? So let me tell you what half-life is all about. Okay. So half-life of a reaction is a time when the concentration of the reactant is reduced to half of its initial concentration. Okay. So it is a time when the initial concentration is reduced to its half. Got it? Okay, this is the definition. So let us first find the rate expression for, or let us find the half-life for first order reaction. Okay. In last class, I think so had given you this equation. K is equals to 2.303 by T log initial concentration of the reactant divided by final concentration. Yes, this is the rate expression for the first order reaction. Okay, so here this is T, this is rate constant, this R naught is initial concentration of the reactant, and this R is final concentration of the reactant. Got it? At time T. So now we will find T half. Got it? So at T half, what I told you that R will become half of the initial concentration. Yes or no? So this concentration of the R at T half will be the half of the initial concentration. Yes or no? So now let us put the value in this expression. So putting the values in the expression, what do we get? K is equals to 2.303, this T will be T half, yes, this will be log, this will be R initial, and since R will be R initial by 2. Okay, this will get cancelled. So K is equals to 2.303 T half log, this 2 will go above and this will be log 2. Yes. So now T half is equals to 2.303 divided by K, and this will be log. What is the value of log 2? It's around 0.301. Okay. Okay. Bit of this one. Oh. So this will be T half is equals to, if you multiply this and this, you'll get 0.693 divided by K. Okay. So this is the expression of half-life for first order reaction. Okay. So this is the important expression. Okay. And you'll get a numerical problem with respect to this equation. Got it? This expression is very important. So this expression is for T half of first order reaction. Remember this. Okay. So look at this expression very carefully. Since in this expression there is no concentration term involved, see, there is no R term. This type of concentration term is not there. Okay. So what we can write, make a note of it. Okay. So half life of first order reaction is independent of initial concentration. Got it? So T half of first order reaction is independent of concentration term. Got it? So this is very important. Try to remember this. Keep this expression in mind. Okay? So with respect to this and with respect to the expression given for first order reaction, we'll do some numerical problems today. Got it? Okay. So let us do the numerical problem for first order reaction. Okay. Numerical problems, okay, for first order. Okay, previously there was zero order reaction also there in the syllabus, but from 2021 onwards, okay, this zero order reaction is removed from the syllabus. Got it? So we'll discuss only first order reaction. Okay, we'll do numericals on this first order reaction. Okay, so I'll give you some important formulas, okay, which we use in while doing numerical problem. So number one, that is the expression, rate expression for the first order reaction. (2.303) divided by T log, as you know, R initial concentration by R. Yes, and number two, we are going to use this log R1 by R2 is equals to K T2 minus T1 divided by 2.303. Okay, this is the same expression, but this expression is for the reaction, for the same reaction for two different times. Okay, two times are given, T2 and T1. Okay, and number three, we are going to use another expression, that is K is equals to 2.303 by T log partial pressure, initial partial pressure divided by partial pressure of a given gas. Okay, here A is a partial pressure for a given gas. The Pi is initial partial pressure of that particular gas A. Okay, I am considering this A as a gas. Got it? So we are going to use this formula for doing some numerical problems. Okay, so we will start with very simple one. Okay, first let me write the question first. Number one. Okay, the question is the rate constant of a first order reaction is 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 2 second per second. What will be the time required for the initial concentration of 0.4 molar of the reactant to be reduced to 0.2 molar. Okay, so this is the question. First, try to understand the question. If you understand the question, then only you can do the numerical. Okay, so the rate constant of a first order reaction is 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 2 per second. You have to find what will be the time required. You have to find time, that is T, for the initial concentration of 0.4 molar of the reactant to be reduced to 0.2 molar. Okay, first let us make the data clear. Okay, the rate constant, that is K, is given. So K is equal to 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 2 per second. Got it? So now what is given next? The initial concentration, that is, what is initial concentration? R naught is given, or you can call it R original. Okay, so this is equals to 0.4 molar. Yes or no? So next what is given? That is it reduced concentration of the reactant, that is equal to 0.2 molar. Yes? So now simply you have to find T. You find what? T. So simply we use first expression. So the first expression goes like this. K is equals to 2.303, excuse me, by T. So log R original by R. Yes? So let me write T is equals to 2.303. So K will go down, put the value of K, so 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 2. So this will be log, what is R original? That is 0.4. What is R? That is 0.2. If you cancel, you will get 2. So this T is equals to 2.303 divided by 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 2. So what is the value of log 2? We have already used the value of log 2, that is 0.301. Okay, if you multiply this, okay, get rid of this one. If you multiply this, then you will get the result. T is equals to, if you multiply this, then you'll get the result around 15.40 second. Okay, calculate this using calculator. Okay, so T, the time required for the initial concentration to reduce from 4 molar to 0.4 molar to 0.2 molar is T, 15.40 second. Got it? This is very simple one. Okay. Now we'll move on to another question. Okay, another type. This is also very important from your examination point of view. Okay. So the question goes like this. The initial concentration of N2O5 in the following first order reaction. The reaction is, okay, N2O5, that is gas, okay, giving you 2NO2 that is gas plus half O2 gas. This is the equation. Okay. So the initial concentration of N2O5 in the following first order reaction, this reaction was given as 1.24 into 10 to the power minus 2 moles per liter, that is molar concentration only, at 318 Kelvin. Okay. The concentration of N2O5 after 60 minutes was 0.20 into 10 to the power minus 2. Okay. Mole per liter. Calculate the rate constant. Okay. First, let us try to understand the question. Okay, the initial concentration of N2O5 is given as 1.24 into 10 to the power minus 2 mole per liter at 318 Kelvin. The concentration of N2O5 after 60 minutes, after when the time lapse is 60 minutes. Okay. So at that time, the concentration of N2O5 will reduce to 0.20 into the power minus 2 mole per liter. So we need to find rate constant. Let us make our data clear. So we'll use that second formula. Okay, in that second formula, okay, let me write like this: R1, that is initial concentration, given is 1.24 into 10 to the power minus 2 mole per liter. R2 is given, so this R2 is how much? 0.20. So the formula is same, don't get confused with that formula and this formula. Okay, both the formulas are same. I think all this expression has already been given in your previous class. So now T2, try to understand this. T2 time, when the reaction is proceed and it is lasting till 60 minutes. So the T2, the final time will be 60 minutes. Okay, now T1, try to understand this. Since this reaction is just started, the time is 0. Okay, so the reaction has not started yet, it is about to start. So the time T1 will always be 0 minute. Okay, so we need to find K. Got it? We need to find K. Let us move on here. Okay, so since you can see this data which and relate with this expression, so which expression can we use? We can use this expression. Got it? So let me rub this one and this one, and let us try to put the values of all this here. So we need to find K, so let us make K here then. So K is equals, if K comes here, then this will be 2.303 divided by T2 minus T1, okay, log R1 by R2. Okay, so K is equals to 2.303. T2 is how much? 60. T1 is how much? 0. Okay, so this is actually minute. So this will be log. What is R1? R1 is 1.24 into 10 to the power minus 2. Then what is R2? 0.20 into 10 to the power minus 2. Okay, so this get cancelled. So this will be K is equals to 2.303 by 60 into, if you cut this, you will get log 2, 6, R12, 6.2. Okay, this will be per minute. Okay, so K is equals to 2.30360. Log 6.2, value of log 6.2 is around 0.792 per minute. If you calculate, you'll get the value of K. Calculate this, you'll get answer around 0.0304 per minute. Okay, try to find the value like this. Okay, multiply this and divide by 60, you'll get the answer this. Got it? Try to understand this. Okay, this is very, very simple. Once you understood the question, then you will find very easier to solve the problem. Got it? Okay, let us move on to another type of example. Okay, so this is somewhat difficult, but if you understand, then it's very, very, very easy. Okay. Okay, the question goes like this. Let me write the question first. The following data was obtained during first order thermal decomposition of N2O5, that is gas only, at constant volume. Okay, the reaction goes like this: 2 N2O5 producing 2 moles of N2O4, that is gas, plus O2 gas. Okay, and the data given is, let me draw a simple table. Okay, so this is simple table. This is data is like this: 1 and 2. Time in terms of second. This is total PRESSURE pressure in terms of ATM, atmospheric pressure. Okay, here look. Since the equation, this is gas. So for gaseous reactant, okay, concentration term has no meaning. Okay, so for the gaseous reaction or the reaction involving gases only, we use partial pressure term. Okay, so the we use the formula having the partial pressure term. That is the third formula which I have given previously. Okay, so time given is at 0 second. When the reaction is just started, total pressure is 0.5 atmosphere. At 100 second, the value is 0.512 for the pressure. Okay, you need to CLCU calculate rate constant. Here you have to calculate rate constant. Okay. This is the question. Okay, so there is no concentration term here. You need to find rate constant with respect to partial pressure because pressure is given. Okay, so we'll use that third formula. Okay, before going into that, let us first let us assume this one. Okay. Suppose if we consider the pressure for this N2O5 as 2x, consider the pressure is 2x. Okay. So this 2x pressure N2O5 will decrease. Okay, let me change my language. Okay, since look, 2 moles of N2O5 is formed. Okay, here 2 moles of N2O4 and 1 mole of oxygen. So if there is a decrease in 2x number of or 2x pressure, then there is increase in the 2x pressure for N2O4. Okay, similarly for O2, increase in pressure will be x. If I write only x pressure decrease here, then if x pressure is decreased in N2O4, then here x pressure is decreased. Then for this, the pressure decrease will be half, because here 2 moles of N2O5 is dissociating to form 2 moles of N2O4 and 1 mole of O2. Okay, so for that reason, let me write like this. Let the pressure decreased. Okay. Let the pressure decreases by 2x for N2O5. Then what will happen? Therefore, the pressure increases for N2O4 is equal to 2x only. Again, the pressure increases for O2 will be x. Okay. For the simplification, for the calculation, we have used 2x, 2x and x. Okay. We can use x, but here will be, for this oxygen will be half. Okay. So to avoid that, we have used 2x, 2x and x. Got it? So now, let me rub this one. Let me write the equation. 2N2O5 gives you 2N2O4 plus O2 at T is equals to 0. At T equals to 0, at T equals to 0, what is the total pressure here? 0.5 atm. At T equals to 0, the pressure is 0.5 atm. Yes or no? Similarly, at T equals to 0, the reaction is just started, so there is no formation of N2O4 and O2. So the pressure will be 0 and 0. Got it? So at time t, let us consider at time t, so the pressure decreased is 2x. So the new pressure for this N2O5 will be 0.5 minus 2x. Similarly, the increase in pressure for N2O4, because N2O4 is formed now, so the pressure will be 2x atm atmosphere. Okay, similarly for this will be x atm. According to Dalton's law of partial pressure, P total is equals to partial pressure of all the component, that is P N2O5 plus P N2O4 plus PO2, partial pressure of oxygen. Yes. So this is equal to, let me write PT. What is partial pressure of N2O5? That is 0.5 minus 2x plus What is the value for this? 2x plus x. Yes? Okay. So P total is equals to this get cancelled. So 0.5 plus x. Okay, so let us find the value of x from here. So x equals to pt minus 0.5. Again, I'll rub this. So now, see, after finding x, that is since we know P N2O5 is what? 0.5 minus 2x. Yes or no? So we have the value of x. Let us put the value of x here. So 0.5 minus 2 is there, pt minus 0.5. Yes, so this is equals to 1. Okay. 0.5 minus 2 p2 plus minus into minus plus, so this will be 1. So this will be 1.5 minus 2 pt. Yes. So at, we know in the table it is given at t is equals to 100 second, at t equals to 100 second, P total is equals to how much? 0.512 atm. That is from the table. Okay. So let us move on here now again. See. So Pn2O5 is equals to 1.5 minus 2, that is pt. pt is how much? 0.512 atm. Okay, look at the board. Pn2O5 is equals to 0.5 minus 2x, which we get from the expression like this. See, at t is equal, at time t, this is the expression. Yes or no? So we have got the value for x, that is pt minus 0.5. So we are putting the value of x over here, and we are getting 0.5 minus 2 pt plus 1. If we add this, you'll get 1.5 minus 2 pt. Okay. So at t, when the time is 100 seconds, then total pressure is already given, that is in the data. Okay. So that is 0.512 atmosphere, which is already given. So PnO2 from here, okay, PnO2 is what? 1.5 into 2 pt, that is by 1.5 minus 2, P total is 0.512 atmosphere. Okay, so we will after calculating this, we will get, if you multiply this, then you'll get the value around 0.476 atmosphere. Okay. Okay, let me rub again. Okay, this also. Now we know the equation K is equals to 2.303 by T log P initial partial pressure. Here in this expression we can write initial partial pressure of N2O5, since this is the reactant, and pressure, partial pressure of NO2, that is A here is NO2 at the given time. Okay, so this is the expression, we are going to use this expression. So let us put the value here. So K is equals to, we need to find the rate constant only, 2.303. What is the time? The time is at 100 second. So this is log, what is Pi? Initial pressure when the reaction is just started, so the pressure is 0.5. What is the pressure of N2O5 at t equals 100 seconds, that is 0.476. So we are putting the value 0.476. If you calculate this, you'll get around 2.303 divided by 100 into, if you calculate this, you'll get around 0.0216. Okay, try to find. So this will be per second. So your answer you'll get around 4.98 into 10 to the power minus 4 per second. Try to calculate this, you'll get this as your answer. Got it? Okay. This is your answer, value of K rate constant. Okay, this much for today. Okay. In next class, I'll give you some numericals on the topic half-life of first order reaction. Okay. So go through this numerical problem again and again. Pause the video, take the screenshot, and go through it again and again. Then you'll understand this. Okay. So don't just mug up this type of numericals. Okay. You have to practice it. If you practice, then only you'll understand. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome back to class 12 ISC Economics. In the previous episode, I discussed about price elasticity of demand. There were 5 different diagrams that I touched upon. The first one was perfectly inelastic demand curve. Let me show this diagram once again. So this was the perfectly inelastic demand curve. EP is equal to 0. Then the second one, we made the demand curve fall slightly this was inelastic demand curve. The third, this is unitary demand curve. Elastic demand curve, and finally we had the perfectly elastic demand curve D. So these were the 5 diagrams that explains the degree of price elasticity of demand. Beyond this, I'd like to start today the calculation that is based on price elasticity of demand. So based on the price elasticity of demand, I'd like to show you 2 calculations. The first question is based on the ICSE 2016 question paper, and the second one is ISC 2010 question paper. So if you were to do calculation based on price elasticity of demand, I'd like to show you 2 formulas. The first very simple formula is the price elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage change in the price. That means to say that if, let's say, the price of a good increases by 10%, then the quantity may decrease by, say, 5%. So if the question says the price decreased by 10%, since the price decreased by 10%, the quantity demanded increased by 5%. So if the question says that, you just have to put the values, solve 0.5. We say EP, price elasticity of demand, is less than 1. If it is less than 1, we say it is inelastic demand, or price elasticity of demand is inelastic. So these are the very simple questions where percentages are given to you. You just have to put the values and solve. Whereas in ISC, these are the questions that are generally asked. So I would like to solve these problems for you. To solve these questions, I would like to give you some basic idea. Let us say that a price of a pair of jeans is 800 rupees and the quantity demanded, let us say, is 50 units. Now, let the price fall. Let's say the new price of the jeans is 600. So when the price falls, the quantity demanded will increase. So we will say now it is 80 units. Here you can see the original price was 800. This is the original price. It is known as P. P for original price. Quantity demanded, original quantity demanded was 50 units. This is known as Q. The price has changed. From 800, it is 600. Remember, when we do this calculation, we take the absolute value. Forget about the minus sign that is given to you in the question. So, if the price was 800, now it is 600, there is a decrease in the price of 200 rupees. We say delta P is 200. So, what does delta P stand for? Delta P stands for decrease or the change in the price by 200. Whereas, when the price decreased, the quantity demanded has increased. How much has the quantity demand increased? By 30 units. So we say delta Q or change in the quantity demanded is equal to 30 because the change is 30. We will not write any negative sign or positive sign. Whether it increases or decreases, it doesn't matter. What matters is the change only is required. Now, if this is it, then we have P 800, Q 50, delta P 200, delta Q 30. These are the values that you require. Now, there is a formula that you should learn. The price elasticity of demand is equal to delta Q upon delta P multiplied by P upon Q. Okay, using these formulas, you will solve these questions. So, this is the formula that we have to use. What is delta Q? 30. What is delta P? 200. What is P? 800. And what is Q? 50. After we put these values, then we calculate. (12/5). So we have 12 of 3 4s are 12 and 5 1s are 5. 12/5, 5 2s are 10, 11, 12, carry over 2, so 5 4s are 20, 2.4. Then finally you will have to write the answer as EP is greater than 1. Because the answer 2.4 is greater than 1, we write EP is greater than 1. If EP is greater than 1, we say it is elastic. So this is how we solve the questions. Now I am going to take a typical example of ISC 2016. So let's read this question first. The quantity demanded of a commodity at a price of rupees 10 per unit is 40 units. That means the actual price is 10 rupees. And what is the quantity demanded at 10 rupees? Quantity demanded is, we have 40 units. Here, the price elasticity of demand is given to you as -2. EP is equal to -2. But as I told you, we will use absolute terms. We will not use the negative sign or positive. We'll just use absolute value. So forget about the minus sign, just write EP is equal to 2. The price falls by rupees 2. The price falls by rupees 2 means delta P is 2 rupees. Falls by rupees 2. That means the new price must be 8 rupees. The price falls by 2. The price falls by rupees 2. That means the new price is 8 rupees. We'll have to find the quantity demanded when the price falls. Once again, the quantity demanded of a commodity at a price of rupees 10 per unit is 40 units. Its price elasticity of demand is 2, not minus 2. Forget about the minus. The price falls by 2 rupees. Delta P is 2. Delta P is the change in the price. So what is the new price? It's 8 rupees. Now, let's look at the formula. Delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. We don't know delta Q. Why? Because we don't know the change in the quantity demanded. So we will leave delta Q as it is. Delta P. Delta P is change in the price. What is the change in the price? 2 rupees. P. P is the original price. What is the original price? 10 rupees. Q. What is the original quantity? 40. Here we have price elasticity of demand, which is 2. So we write 2. Now we calculate. So we'll take this 4 2s are 8. We'll go up here. We have 4 2s are 8. 8 2s are 16. So the change in the quantity demanded is 16 units. So change in quantity demand is 16 units. So once you know the change in the quantity demanded is coming to 16 units, you'll have to go back to the question and say the price is decreasing. If the price decreases, then quantity demanded should increase. When price falls, demand will increase. That means originally it was 40 units. Now it will increase by 16 units. So the new quantity demanded is equal to 40, originally 40, and the quantity demanded will increase, add. When there is an increase, add. If the price falls, quantity demanded has to increase. Increase means add. So we have 56 units. So this is how a simple question is solved. So that was ISE 2016. Now we will try the next question, ISE 2010. The same formula will be used. I will read. The price of a commodity falls from rupees 50 to rupees 30. Let's look at the price. Price was 50 rupees. Now the price falls to 30 rupees. Original price 50, new price 30. What has happened to the price? It has decreased. So how much is the decrease? Change in the price. Delta P is the change in the price. What has changed? 20. The change is 20. From 50 to 30, change is 20. Resulting in increase in the purchase of the commodity from 200 units, it has become now 220 units. Let me go back. When the price was 50 rupees, quantity demanded was 200 units. When the price decreased to 30 rupees, the change in the price is now 20 rupees. The quantity demanded increased. Notice when the price decreases, quantity demanded will increase. So with these values, the question says calculate price elasticity of demand. Calculate EP. Again, the same formula, delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. Generally, students make a mistake by taking this Q up and taking the P down. Be careful. Your formula has to be correct. So we calculate the price elastic demand. Delta Q, what is the change in the quantity demanded? Delta Q has changed by 20. 20. The price has changed by 20. The original price P was 50. And the original quantity demanded was 200. So 1 upon 4, 0.25. So we write the answer, EP is less than 1. 0.25 is less than 1. So EP is less than 1. We say it is inelastic. So this is how you solve the question here. That was ISC 2010 questions. Yes. So after you practice more questions based on your ISC past papers, you will see that this calculation where we use the formula is known as measurement of calculating price elastic demand by percentage method. I'll just give you a gist. The next topic after this is measurement. Measurement of price elasticity of demand. The first method is known as the percentage method. In percentage method, we use the formula price elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage change in the price. We also use delta Q upon delta P into P upon Q. And then we do some calculation to find out and measure the price elastic demand. The second type of measurement of price elasticity of demand is the total expenditure method. The second one is called the total expenditure method. And the third one is known as geometrical method. Now to explain total expenditure method, geometrical method will take quite some time. And since we are going to do 1 or 2 classes only now, so I will not explain all these details. We'll have to do this, it's part of the syllabus, but I'm skipping this at the moment, and I'll continue with the different elasticity of demand. So this is part of a syllabus which I haven't touched. We can do it later. The next thing, after price elasticity of demand, the next thing you'll have to learn is income elasticity of demand. Now the word is income. Price has been removed and we have put income in it. So whenever the price is removed and income has been put, what happens here is we will have to understand that if the income changes, previously if the price changes, then the quantity demanded will change. This time, if the consumer's income changes, what will happen to the quantity demanded? So here we take the income of the consumer and the quantity demanded. What is income elasticity of demand? It is the degree of responsiveness. Responsiveness means how much will the quantity demand change? How much is the quantity demanded sensitive to the change in the income of the consumers? That means if the income of the consumers change, then how much will the quantity demand change? For example, if your income is double, your income has increased, but the quantity demanded may remain the same. Sometimes your income decreases, but your quantity demanded may remain same. So when income of the consumer changes, the quantity demanded also by a consumer will change. So this is income elastic demand. It is based on the income of a consumer and how much will the quantity demanded change. So there is a formula here, percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in income. This time, in place of price, we have income. Previously, in price elasticity of demand, we had price here. Now this is income elasticity of demand, we have income here. So we will see how, when the change in income of a consumer takes place, how the quantity demand will respond. Now, there are various ways they will respond. The first one is positive income elasticity. Now, positive here means, as I taught you previously, if the income of a consumer increases and quantity demanded also increases, both in the same direction, increase in income, increase in quantity demanded, that's what happens normally. It is both in the same direction, positive. Or we say, let us say the income of the consumer decreases. If the income of the consumer decreases, what happens to the quantity demanded? It will also decrease. Same direction, decrease, decrease. Both in the same direction, we say positive. So let's see what it is. With the increase in the percentage of income of the consumer, that means when the income of the consumer increases, then the quantity demanded will also increase. Or if the percentage of income of the consumer decreases, the quantity demanded will also decrease. Same direction. When one increases, the other increases. When one decreases, the other also decreases. That is what positive income elasticity means. Both in the same direction. So a typical example is normal goods. Because normal goods behave like that. When your income increases, demand increases, and when income decreases, the quantity demanded will also decrease. So this is normal goods. Now, when we say positive income elastic demand, there are three types of positive income elasticity. The first one is income elastic, second one is inelastic, and the third one is unitary. Let me go in short. Income elastic. Here, percentage change in the quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in the income. EP is greater than 1. Second one, income elastic, inelastic. Percentage change in the quantity demanded is smaller than percentage change in income, less than 1. And the third one is unitary income, where when the change in quantity demanded is equal to change in the income. So I'll explain this to you now in short. Let's have a look. The first thing is you have to know the formula. This is known as income elasticity of demand with a Y, which you can write like this also. Y means income. And the formula is percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage change in income. The first one. Here you will see that your income has increased. Your income has increased by 10%. Your income has increased by 10%. If your income increases by 10%, quantity demanded increases more than 10%, 30% increase. Plus, 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 positive. 3. Here you can see EY is equal to 3. That means the income elasticity of demand is greater than 1. If it is greater than 1, we say it is elastic. Second one, same formula, but the change is, okay, your income increases by 10%. Your income increases by 10%. When your income increases by 10%, your quantity demand will also increase, but the increase is not 30%, it is just 5%. Increase in the quantity demanded is less than increase in the percentage of the income. What do we have here? 0.5. EP is less than 1. If it is less than 1, EY is less than 1, it is inelastic. And the last one, third one, income elasticity of demand. Same. The income of the consumer increases by 10%. your income increases by 10%, so your demand, percentage of quantity demand, will also increase by 10%. 1. EY is equal to 1. When it is equal to 1, we say it is unitary. So briefly, let's go back and just revise. Income, elastic demand, formula, percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage in the change in the income. First case, income increased, all three same increase, 10% increase, 10% increase, 10% increase. But how do they behave? Here quantity demanded increases more than 10%. Here it increases but less than the increase in the income. And here income increases by 10%, quantity demand also equal increase, less increase, more increase. You will get answers. Here it is greater than 1, elastic. Here it is less than 1, inelastic. Here it is equal to 1, unitary. So these are the three different positive income elasticity, where we say first is elastic, second is inelastic, and the third is unitary. This is known as positive income elasticity. In my next class, I am going to explain to you what is negative income elasticity of demand and zero income elasticity of demand. So this will be all for today. So this is all for today. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, we are back after a break. We continue with the next episode for computer science for ISC students of 2021. Okay, if you remember, before we took a break, we were dealing with Boolean algebra. So we continue with Boolean algebra. Today we will be discussing about sum of product and product of sum. Fine. Now, before we move into what is SOP and what is POS, remember this is the truth table. We have got a 3-input truth table. So when we speak of 3-input truth table, remember this formula, 2 to the power n, where n is supposed to be the number of inputs or literals. Okay. So here we have got 3. So 2 to the power 3, that is 8. So 8 combinations we need. So we need 8 rows or 8 combinations in the truth table, since we are doing with 3 input. If it was 4, it would have gone to 16. Fine. Now let's learn about the terms. When we are in the truth table and we talk about the terms, terms will refer to the row, each row numbers. Okay. Like here, the first row is term 0. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 0 to 7, that is 8 rows, so 8 terms. Okay. If it was 4 input, it would have gone to 0 to 3. If it was, sorry, 4, if it is 4 input, it will go to 0 to 15. If it was 2 inputs, it would have gone from 0 to 3. But here we are using 3 inputs, so 0 to 7. Now these terms are very important when you are doing SOP and POS. Okay, we are dealing with the terms values. Now if you look at these terms, the term numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these are related to this row values also. Like say the term numbers are in decimal number system, and the combinations that we have here 0, 0, 0 or 0, 0, 1, let's take it as binary. In fact, they are in binary. So if the decimal value is 0, the binary equivalent for this, for 3 input is 0, 0, 0. If it is 1, binary of 1, decimal 1 is 0, 0, 1. Binary of 2, decimal 2 is 0, 1, 0. Binary of 3 will be 0, 1, 1. Binary of 4 is 1, 0, 0. Binary of 5, 1, 0, 1. 6 is 1, 1, 0. And 7, 1, 1, 1. If we move to 8, 8 has to have 4 input, okay? In that case, it will become 1, 0, 0, 0. Since we are not doing with 8, 1, let's forget about this for the time being. So decimal values and the binary equivalent. Now, if you take this table and you compare with this truth table, this decimal value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are the term values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The binary equivalent of these decimal values are the combinations that I am using in this, each of the rows. Like if you see the binary of decimal 0 is 0, 0, 0. So look at the first row, 0, 0, 0. Decimal value 0 term, the binary combination 0, 0, 0. You take any other, take 5. 5 is, this is 5 actually. 5 is 1, 0, 0, 1. So 5, 1, 0, 1. So if you know the decimal and the binary equivalent, there will be no mistake in this truth table and the terms referring to it. Also from the combination of this, the row combination, the binary values, you can get the truth table, or the term values also. Like if I have got 0, 0, 0 in decimal, it will be 0. If it is 0, 0, 1, it is 1. If it is 0, 1, 0, it is 2. 0, 1, 1, 3. 1, 0, 0, 4. 1, 0, 1, 5. 1, 1, 0, 6. 1, 1, 1, 7. So whether you are converting decimal to binary or binary to decimal, you can easily get these numbers, the terms, or looking at the terms, you can get the combinations. Suppose you are given the term, say 4, term 4, then the combination will be 1, 0, 0, okay, for 3 input truth table. If it is 4 input truth table, it will be 0, 1, 0, 0, if you want for the 4th term. So from the term, you can get the combinations of the truth table for the inputs, or from the inputs combination, you can get the terms. Both ways is valid. Both ways it becomes easy for you to create this table. Fine. Now let's move on. Now we come to what is sum of product. Let's again pay attention here. Now we had 3 input in our truth table, A, B, and C. Fine. Now here there are 2 words, sum and product. When we speak of product, in maths the symbol is dot, isn't it? Dot means multiplication or product. If we take this to Boolean algebra, dot will refer to the AND gate. Dot refers to AND gate. That means if we have A dot B dot C, then this becomes product of A, B, and C. Product of A, B, and C. That is, we are using the AND gate between A, B, and C. So if this is one term, suppose we have got another one, A complement dot B dot C. One more, let's have A complement dot B dot C complement. So each one is a product. This is a product of ABC. This is a product of A complement BC. This is a product of A complement B, C complement. So each one is a product. Now if we find the sum of this, then it becomes like this. We had this A dot B dot C. Then we had got A complement dot B dot C, and we had got A complement dot B dot C complement, isn't it? These were the three examples that we took, the three terms. Each one is a product of ABC, A complement BC, A complement B, C complement. Now, if we want to find the sum, again when we speak of sum, mathematically it means the plus sign. When we take this to Boolean algebra, plus sign is for the OR gate. Okay? So, sum of the product. So, we put the plus sign between this and a plus sign between this. So, we had the products, the three products. We are finding the sum of these three products by using this plus sign or the OR gate. So, here we have, for the product we have got the AND gate. For the sum we are having the OR gate. So, this becomes the sum of the product. In short, we call it SOP, sum of the product. This is also known as the mean term. This is also known as the mean term. It is, in truth table, it is represented by the value 1. Clear? Sum of the product, mean term 1. Okay? Now we move to the next one. Product of sum. Again we come back to here. Here it is a product of sum. Sum. As I just now explained, sum plus sign which is equivalent to OR gate. Right? So the OR gate or the sum of the term of the input variables. So if you have the input variable A, B, C, so sum of these variables, that means we will use the plus sign between them. So A plus B plus C. This is sum of the three input variables, A plus B plus C. One more, let's say A plus B complement plus C. So sum of A, B complement, C. We can take one more term, say A plus B plus C complement. So we are finding the sum of the three input variables. Here we have got A plus B plus C, here we have got A plus B complement plus C, here we have got A plus B plus C complement. Okay? So we have found the sum. Now we need to find the product of this sum. Again, when we speak of product, it means the dot, that means AND. So like the previous one, if we combine this now, we had A plus B plus C. Here we have got A plus B complement plus C, and then we have got A plus B plus C complement. This was the sum of the three different terms. Now we need to find the product of these terms. Product, as I said, is the dot sign, so you give a dot between them. So this was the sum of the terms. Now we are finding the product of these three together. So it becomes product of the sum. Product of the sum, which is, in short, we say POS. Also it is called the max term. In truth table, it is represented by the value 0. Is it clear? Sum of the product and product of the sum. Sum of the product and product of the sum. In short, SOP and POS. Let's go back to the truth table. Remember, we had this truth table, 3 inputs, A, B, C, the 8 combinations, the terms 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This X is some output. For some Boolean expression, we have got an output. Suppose we have got this output. For the 0th term, we have got 0. For the first term, we have got 1. For second term, we have got 1. For term 3, we have got 0. Term 4, we have got 0. Term 5, we have got 1. Term 6, 0. Term 7, 1. This output is an example. Okay, for some Boolean expression, we have this output. Now, from this output, we will talk about the SOP and POS. Now, if you remember, SOP refers to the ones, POS refers to 0. The min term is 1, the max term is 0. Okay? So, now let us concentrate on this output 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. So, wherever we have got 1, this and this 2, 1 means SOP, that is the min term. So, wherever we have got 1, these terms are called min term. That means term 1, term 2, term 5 and term 7 have min terms, right? And wherever we have got zeros, this one, this 2 and this one, zeros are max term, that is POS. So, we have got zeros in term 0, then we have got in 3, we have got in 4 and we have got in 6. So, 0, 2, 3 and 6 are the max terms values, while the rest 1, 2, 5 and 7 are min term. Okay, so, from the truth table now, from this output, we know which are the min term and which are the max terms. Okay, wherever you get 0, that is taken as max term, wherever you got 1, it will be taken as min term. Fine. Now, let us write up the term expression. So, first we will term with the min term, where we have got 1, 1. Okay, so these two have got 1, this one and this one has got 1. Remember, we are using 3 input variables A, B and C. So, we are talking about SOP, sum of the product. So, the 3 inputs we have taken A dot B dot C, A dot B dot C, A dot B dot C, A dot B dot C. I have not completed it. There will be some more modification. So, for the first time being, you see that we are writing down the product of the terms, product of the 3 input variables A dot B dot C, A dot B dot C, A dot B dot C, A dot B dot C. Now, when we are talking about this product, if you remember, as I said, it is the AND gate. Now, when we speak of AND gate, when both the inputs are, all 3 inputs are 1, then only the output will be taken as 1. Any other combination, it will be 0. In case of AND gate, when all the inputs are 1, then only the output is 1. In any other combination, it will be taken as 0. Say, for example, if I have, say, 1, 0, 1, its output, if I use this dot, then it becomes 0. If I have 0 dot 1 dot 1, it will be 0. If I have 0 dot 0 dot 0, obviously it will be 0. So, any other combination other than 1, 1, 1, it will be 0. Only when we have got 1, 1, 1, it will be 1. That means, whether it is 3 input, 4 input, 5 input or 2 input, if all the inputs have the value 1, then only the output will be 1. In any other combination, it will be 0. Okay? So, now if you look at this first min term, we have got A as 0, B as 0, C as 1, but the output has to be 1. 0 dot 0 dot 1, it will actually become 0, but we need it to be 1. That means, to make it 1, what we need to do? We need to make this one a 1, we need to make this one also 1. That means, A and B has to become 1. Now, how will you change A and B from 0 to 1? It's very simple. If normally you got A as 0, if you complement this, if you make A complement, so complement of 0 becomes 1. So, if A is 0, if you complement this, it will become 1. If B is 0, if you complement B, it will become 1. In that case, A complement will be 1, B complement is 1, C is 1 only. So 1 dot 1 dot 1, you will get 1 because of the AND gate. So now we modify that term that we have written here. So here we have got now A complement, B complement, C. A complement, B complement, C, because this has to be complemented, this has to be complemented to change them to 1. So now this is 1, this is 1, this is 1. So all three are 1, output is 1. Clear? Similarly for the next one, this is also min term. Here what we have got 0, 1, 0. That means A is 0, C is 0, while B is 1. That means we need to complement A, we need to complement C. So what we have got now here, A complement B, C complement, because B is normal. B is already 1, so we don't need to complement. We need to complement A, we need to complement C. So we have got A complement, B, C complement. Fine? Similarly, we go to this min term. Here what we have got 1, 0, 1. That means B needs to be complemented. So A, B complement C. A, B complement C is 1. Now the last term, 1, 1, 1. A is 1, B is 1, C is 1. All are 1. So there is no need to complement. So this remains as A, B, C. So now we have got the mean terms for this output. So wherever we have got 1, these are the mean terms in form of the input variables. So A complement, B complement, C, A complement, B, C complement, A, B complement, C, A, B, C. Fine? Now similarly, let's talk about the max terms. So max term, remember, wherever there is 0, it is taken as max term. So we have 0 here, we have 0 here, 0 here, and 0 here. So in case of max term, it is A plus B plus C, POS, product of the sum. So sum of A, B, and C. Sum of A, B, and C, sum of A, B, and C, sum of A, B, and C. Okay? Now here we are using the sum. Sum means the plus sign. In Boolean, plus sign is equivalent to the OR gate. In case of OR gate, remember, only when all the inputs are 0, then it is taken as 0. Any other combination, it will become 1. Only when, say, for the 3 input variables, if all 3 are 0, then it will remain as 0. Any other combination, 0, 0, 1, it will become 1. Or 1, 0, 1 becomes 1. 1, 1, 0 will become 1. Or any other combination. So that means only when all are 0, we will have the output as 0. Okay? So now if you look at this truth table, first one, A is 0, B is 0, C is 0. All are 0. So 0 plus 0 plus 0, output is 0. Or 0 or 0 or 0 will be 0. We are doing the OR gate. So there is no need to change anything here. So A plus B plus C, the first one. Now let's come here to this one, this next max term. 0, 1, 1. B is 1, C is 1, while A is 0. So 0 plus 1 cannot remain 0, it will become 1. But we need to keep it as 0. So what we need to do? We need to change this to 0, this one also to 0. That means if, say, B is 1, how do I make it 0? Simple, I complement this. Instead of B, if I write B complement, 1 will become 0. Okay? If I complement B, 1 will become 0. Or if I complement 1, it becomes 0. That means I need to complement this B, I need to complement this C. So B complement, C complement. While A is 0 itself, so it remains as it is. So we have got, if you look at this now, A plus B complement plus C complement, because we are complementing this one and this one and changing them to 0. So now it becomes 0 plus 0 plus 0, you will get the max term. Similarly, if you look at this next term, A is 1, B is 0, C is 0. That means we need to convert or complement A. So it becomes A complement plus B plus C. Okay, because B and C are 0, so no need to complement. A has to be complemented. Now we look at this fourth one, the sixth term. We've got 1, 1, 0. That means we need to convert or complement A, we need to complement B, while C is 0 itself. So it becomes, if you look at the output, A complement plus B complement plus C. A complement plus B complement plus C. Okay? So now we have the max terms. Whatever I've written in red, these are the max term. A plus B plus C, A plus B complement plus C complement, A complement plus B plus C, A complement plus B complement plus C. These are the max term, while whatever is in the black color, these are all mean terms. Clear? Good. Okay. So we have got the max term and the mean term. Now let's bring them out and form a single expression. So first we deal with the mean terms. Let's take the mean term out. So we have taken out A complement, B complement, C. Let's take out the next one, A complement, B, C complement. The third one, A, B complement, C. And finally the fourth one, A, B, C. So these were the products. Each one is the product. Now we find the sum of them. So this becomes the sum of the product from the truth table that we had as an example. This is the sum of the product for that truth table. A complement B complement C plus A complement B C complement plus A B complement C plus A B C. Okay. Similarly, let's take out the max terms one by one. We've got A plus B plus C taken out, A plus B complement plus C complement, A complement plus B plus C, and finally we have got A complement B complement plus C. These are the sum of the input variables. Okay. So now if we find the product of them, inner ones are the sum, outer ones we have got the product. So this becomes your product of the sum, the POS. SOP and POS, sum of the product and product of the sum. This way of writing down the expression in this form is called the canonical form. So in your question paper, sometimes you will get for the Boolean expression, write down the canonical form. Or after solving through K-map, simplifying through K-map, you might be asked to write down the canonical form. So this is the canonical form. Clear? Now, one more form is there, that is called the cardinal form. Cardinal form we will deal in the next class. So today we have learned how to get the different terms in a truth table. The different rows have got different terms. How to convert the terms to the combination or from combination to the terms, binary to decimal, decimal to binary values. We have seen what is SOP, what is POS, how we are getting SOP, how we are getting the POS. And then in a truth table, which terms are the SOP terms and which terms are the POS terms. Okay? Generally, you get to do either the SOP or the POS. Both are not given. But then we have learned both. Okay? And also we have learned how to form this canonical form from the truth table. Fine? So we will stop here today. Thank you. Stay home and stay safe because the pandemic is still going on. We are still having lockdown and unlocks also. Okay? Thank you. See you in the next class.